Welcome back to the GP Productions podcast. Okay, welcome back to the podcast. And I've got a great guest today, a really special guest all the way from America again. We seem to be just having loads of American guests on the podcast at the moment, and it's great. Kelli Berins Brink, how are you?
I'm great. How are you?
I am doing good. Doing good. Thanks for joining me today.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
No problem. Do you want to tell people a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, so I have a true crime podcast here in the United States. It's called True Crime IRL, which is true crime in real life. I've been podcasting since 2019, and yeah, I've got 3 boys, and I'm a mom, but a busy podcaster. I do it full time and drinking some wine tonight too. So that's me.
Very good. You're in the middle of setting up for a live show tonight.
Yeah. Yep. I'm live from Franklin Street Brewing Company in Manchester, Iowa here, and we're doing a live show tonight. So, yeah.
I actually had a band from Manchester on there a while ago called Sepsis, a rock band.
Not Manchester, Iowa, though. Manchester in the UK.
Oh, I think it was Manchester, New Hampshire. Is that a different Manchester as well?
Okay, yeah. Not me.
Yeah.
This is way smaller probably, but yeah, it's a Manchester.
I've learned something today. I didn't know there was 2 Manchesters in the United States.
I bet there's a lot of Manchesters. Yeah.
How did you start the podcast, and what made you start it?
So I've just been like a true crime binger my entire life. I'm kind of obsessed with true crime, mainly because I just used to be like afraid of everything. I was a big scaredy cat, and the more I started consuming true crime, like kind of the less scared I got, because I started to feel like a little more prepared for all the crazy stuff that can happen in life. And now I'm not scared of anything. So
yeah, it's really big in America, the crime stuff, isn't it?
Yeah, it's big in America, and I've found that it's kind of big in Australia too. But yeah, big in America for sure.
Do you find like a lot of your demographics are coming from Australia then as well as America?
Yeah. It's like United States, Canada, and Australia are my biggest consumers of my podcast. So yeah. What is it big in is it big in Ireland? Is true crime big in Ireland?
We have a couple of channels. We get kind of cable channels, but we get them from the UK. We don't have our own cable thing. And there's a few channels on there that would have that kind of thing on it.
Gotcha.
You know, there's a few murder channels and stuff like that. But I think a lot of it is repetitive.
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah. It's big here though. Yeah, for sure.
So a typical podcast for you then, just give an example maybe of one of your popular ones that you have out. What was it about?
Yeah, so a lot of mine deal with kind of like women who are victims, as well as children, or cold cases that have not been solved, or cases that have kind of a twist. Like someone may be sitting in prison for the crime, but like, did they really do it, or could there be a possible twist there? That's kind of the stuff I cover. I cover a lot of cases from my home state, but really all over the country and the globe.
Yeah, very good.
Yeah.
Well, you were doing a few conventions there. Was it last week as well?
Yes, I've been super busy the last month. I did CrimeCon in Austin, Texas in June, and that was fantastic. Actually, I didn't do CrimeCon, but I was there anyway, and I made a lot of great connections and stuff there. And then I was at the True Crime Podcast Festival in Kansas City, Missouri just last week, and I've been kind of making the rounds on people's podcasts and stuff, and just staying incredibly busy. And it's been great, though. It's been good.
And here we are now, and you're on your first ever Irish podcast, I think.
Cheers, Ireland. Yeah. That's great.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Okay, because we're a wrestling podcast, and I got in contact with you kind of through a podcasting group on Facebook.
Yep.
Because I kind of wanted to diversify this podcast as well and go into certain different things. Like I want to go into maybe ghost stories, maybe UFO things, maybe murders. I want to leave the book open. But predominantly on this podcast, we do a lot of wrestling content, and we'd have wrestlers. So yourself were coming up with a way of how are we going to combine our two worlds to do a show today. And we decided that we were going to take a look at the Chris Benoit double murder suicide case.
What a case there. So sad, very tragic, but interesting too. Lots of kind of twists and turns in that one.
Do you remember that case in mainstream media over there?
Yeah, I do kind of remember it, although it didn't really, I wasn't podcasting at that time, and it really didn't hit home for me. And I wasn't, big into the wrestling world or anything. So I didn't know a ton about it, but I've done some research, and wow, it really blows my mind, actually. Yeah.
Yeah. What's your initial thoughts on looking at that case?
Well, my initial thoughts are I'm big into like mental health aspect of crimes. And I think you have to look at that. And I know there are a lot of conspiracy theories out there on this case, but really, I mean, I think it's that traumatic brain injury going on. I think it's the concussion that he suffered. And I mean, conspiracy theories can be fun and interesting, but when it comes down to it, it's like it's Occam's razor. The simplest explanation is usually the right one. And that's kind of what I'm thinking it is. He just had mental health issues that went unchecked. And then the overuse of steroids as well. That's a big thing, and that can really mess with someone's head. Yeah.
Yeah, there was a small minority of people that were thinking that his wife's ex-husband was behind it because he was into Satanism and things like that. But obviously, I think people his big fans may have been in denial, kind of grasping at that straw, but I don't think there's any way that that's true at all.
I mean, he was very loved. And when someone you admire and look up to does something so heinous like this, you don't want to believe that it's true. You just want to find a way to explain it away. But sadly, I just think he was really suffering inside, and that's what made it happen. Yeah.
In the lead up to this case, his very good friend Eddie Guerrero passed away from a heart attack. Maybe it could have been a year, maybe a little bit more before that. And people were saying that he wasn't the same guy since that had happened. Obviously, it doesn't justify what went on, but obviously it was in his mind that, he never got over his friend passing. Can you hear me?
I lost you. There you are. Okay.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah. I think he was battling some depression issues. I think the head injury contributed to that. And then what I've also heard about that is he and his wife, Nancy, had a very volatile relationship. And that's like a big factor in domestic violence and murders like that. There's always something going on with the marriage or that relationship, but taking the child as well, that's really sad. Yeah.
Yeah, because you touched on steroids earlier, and in America, when this happened, the media kind of ran with the steroid story, and they were kind of saying, oh, well, it was roid rage. And obviously there is a thing called roid rage where people snap maybe on steroids, but surely this happened over a weekend of 3 days. So roid rage really can't be blamed for something as prolonged and planned as this.
No. And something, so yeah. I mean, what I heard is that he had like a doctor's appointment, and then over the course, all the deaths happened over the course of a weekend. I heard that, Friday was probably when Nancy was murdered. probably Saturday was when Daniel was murdered, and Sunday is when Chris took his own life. That's what I was thinking. And yeah, it just sounds like he was really struggling with some emotional issues. Like, friends of his talked to him on the phone over the course of the weekend, and it sounds like he was in a very low place. That's my take on it.
Yeah, there was a study done as well by a brain analyst. He used to be a wrestler. He does a lot of work now with the NFL and different organizations in America. Christopher Nowinski is his name. And they tested his brain after he passed away and found that his brain was the equivalent of a 80-year-old with Alzheimer's.
Yes, I read that as well. I was going to bring that up. That's interesting. It's just crazy what those constant, bangs to the head in the wrestling industry and UFC and all of that kind of stuff. It's crazy what that does to your brain. It really takes its toll.
Yeah. And an interesting thing about this case was as well that there was Bibles found beside all the bodies.
Yes. So yeah, what I heard about Chris is over the course of the months before the deaths, it sounds like he kind of found religion, maybe, and in some twisted way, this was some way to like make it better or something. He was there was definitely like a religious aspect to it too. Yeah, Bibles next to him and Daniel and Nancy. Yeah.
Yeah, because he didn't seem to in interviews I've watched of close friends of his and things like that. It didn't seem to be ever a religious person, so I just found that aspect of the case really strange.
Yeah, I mean, he wasn't a religious person, but kind of some things I've read about the case is that over like right before this happened, he kind of like started finding religion and telling his friends he loved them and doing those things that are really like telltale signs that someone's kind of contemplating suicide.
Yeah. So do you think that this was planned way before that weekend?
I don't actually. I
Okay.
think, I mean, if it was planned way before the weekend, I think maybe like just maybe days before. I don't know. I just that's a tough one. I think maybe just maybe the week or something. What do you think on that?
Well, my thoughts were if you bring up the religious side of things, maybe if he was getting deep into religion, maybe a couple of months beforehand, maybe he was kind of going to be looking for forgiveness and maybe something that he was planning to do.
Or maybe he was looking to kind of find his way out of whatever he was going through and ultimately not able to do that. That could be too.
That's the thing about cases like this, there's, especially when he killed himself as well, there's so many questions that would really never be answered.
I know, so many questions. And I did want to bring up one thing I thought was kind of crazy. So, he had probably killed Nancy. He had probably already killed Daniel. But then that Sunday morning, right before we think he took his own life, he started texting friends the location of where he put the dogs. Like they were locked in a closet or whatever it was, like a storage room or something. And that really tells me he probably did take his own life because anyone who has dogs loves their dogs so much and wants, I feel like he would want people to know, where they were and have them, rescued as soon as possible. I feel like he was really going there. Like, I think he was just trying to like let people know my dogs are here. I'm not going to be here anymore. Just take care of them kind of thing. Yeah.
Yeah. That's a really strange part of everything as well. The text messages that were sent.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah. And yeah, he had the big wrestling match coming up that he never showed up for. And
yeah, which is totally uncharacteristic as well. He actually said that the family had food poisoning.
He did. Yeah, he said he had to take Nancy and Daniel to the hospital, actually. So he kind of, who knows? I don't believe the conspiracy theories because, like, he was talking to people on the phone Saturday morning with friends, and he said, they're really sick. I had to take them to the hospital. And they said he just didn't seem right. I feel like he had already taken their lives at that point. And yeah. Yeah.
Another thing about the case was in Daniel's room there was a knife found, a big massive knife found beside his bed. Like, so you'd wonder, was he going to use that and went against it because allegedly the child was drugged and suffocated. You know.
Yeah, I didn't know about that actually.
Yeah.
That's a really interesting fact. So, yeah, that's one thing I had not read about it. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just sad. I mean, 7-year-old little boy, why take him as well? But then again, I'm thinking, well, he probably didn't want him to be alone after the loss of both of his parents, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. There's often a discussion in the wrestling world, which is kind of, I find bizarre at times. There's a thing called the Hall of Fame. It's
Mm-hmm.
where they induct wrestlers based on their performances over the years.
Yes.
So, for example, Hulk Hogan is in it, Steve
Yep.
Austin, The Undertaker, people like this.
Yep.
And there's often, you'd see from a minority, an outcry that say, oh, well, Chris should be in the Hall of Fame just because of his wrestling merit. What
Yeah.
would your opinion be on that from the
Yeah.
outside?
I really do have a strong opinion about this because after this crime, they basically tried to erase him from wrestling as a whole. I feel like, and I don't think that's a good idea because he was obviously battling some mental illness, and I feel like just erasing him from wrestling history, taking his name off of all of that, kind of also tries to bury the stigma of mental illness, and it kind of like perpetuates that negative stigma. Like, oh no, he had these mental things going on. He did a terrible thing. He can no longer be part of our organization or whatever. But I don't know. I think he should still be recognized for the great things he did in wrestling. I do. I do. I know a lot of people disagree with that, but I think he should.
Yeah, I'd disagree with it just on the fact that Nancy's family and those kind of people that were directly affected by it, and then they see
That's
the guy
true.
kind of been glamorized. You see, there's so many open questions with this
I mean,
thing, and
yeah. It's I just I know. Yeah, there's a big trail of tears left behind with the victim's family and everything. I mean, it's totally tragic. So I totally understand how her family would not want to see his name kind of glamorized. I get that. I totally get that.
yeah,
Yeah.
I think that's where they're coming from. And they did
Yeah.
erase most of his content, but now it's kind of starting to filter back in. It's not really advertised, but it's there if you look for it. You know, that kind
Yeah.
of way.
Yeah. I just I struggle with this big time. I don't think that it's like he was battling a lot of shit. Like I don't think it's something like he wasn't like going to be a danger to someone on the street or anything like that. I don't know. I just feel like he snapped or like had a lot of mental stuff going on. That's
Yeah.
I don't know. It's very sad though. Very sad.
To summarize the case, then, what would you put his actions down to? Would it be concussion, brain injury? Would it be mental health? Would it be steroids? Would it be all of those combined, or what do you think?
Definitely all that whole cocktail combined. I mean, that's a lot of stuff going on in the human brain, and those things don't belong together. I mean, traumatic brain injury is a common factor in most serial killers, unchecked mental illness, depression, all of that mixed with steroids that can affect your mood and affect your brain. I mean, I think all of that contributed to this horrible, tragic crime.
Yeah, well, it was nice to get an outside perspective on this case on the kind of a wrestling podcast, because people still hold an interest even to this day about it, and they just can't understand it. And I know me and you just had a conversation about it, and we still can't understand it really either.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's ever. No, there are only 3 people who know exactly what happened, and those people, unfortunately, are not around to tell us. So, yeah.
Yeah. So on to a bit of happier stuff then.
Yeah.
What have you got going on?
Oh, a lot. So, tonight I'm doing my first live show at Franklin Street Brewing Company. This is my friend Tina.
Hey, Tina.
She is the manager here. So we're doing our first live show at Franklin Street Brewing Company in Manchester, Iowa, and it's going to be about John Wayne Gacy, which is kind of, but you know, we're going to try to make light of a few topics in this case. And then I'm doing, I just did my friend Sabrina's podcast, Let's Chat Over Coffee. So that's coming next week. Going to be on the Film Strip podcast next week, discussing the movie No Country for Old Men. And that movie's amazing, as we all know. And I chose that because it showcases the ultimate psychopath in that movie. Like, no remorse, no conscience at all. So we're going to be talking about that. And then again, like every Friday, I have a new episode, a new full-length episode coming out on True Crime IRL. So we're, everybody should, you know, download that, subscribe anywhere you get your podcasts.
Are you doing video work yet on YouTube?
I have a YouTube channel, and I really need to be working on that a little harder because, oh my gosh, with TikTok, YouTube, website, Facebook, Instagram. I'm big. I do a lot of Instagram stuff, so follow me there. But yeah, it's so hard with all the stuff. So, but yeah, I'm working on my YouTube channel, so more to come on that. So yeah.
Listen, it was an absolute pleasure to talk to you today, and best of luck tonight.
Yeah, so great to talk to you. What a case this is. And I think you kind of inspired me to do a full-length episode on this case. So I'm going to deep dive into it soon. Maybe I'll have you on my show.
Yes, and I think it's a very interesting one, and there's a lot of mad shit, let's just say, in the wrestling world that involves murder and different things like that. And maybe you might come back on my show again. I might have something for you.
It's a weird statistic how many pro wrestlers are no longer living and have died under mysterious circumstances. So that is definitely something we might want to cover later.
Yeah, you might turn into a wrestling fan. You'd never know.
I might. I love UFC and stuff. So maybe wrestling. Maybe I need to just get into that more.
Our guy Connor is fighting on Saturday night, so good luck to him.
Connor. You know, I'm like 80% Irish, so I kind of like belong on your show, really.
Yeah, brilliant. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you so much, Maurice, and
have fun tonight.
Soon. Okay.